Hi everybody. Welcome to our publishing party. So I thought I would sort of share my published piece like everybody else. And I actually chose a method that wasn't a method of binding my book that wasn't in the binding methods that were described in the PowerPoint. I did an accordion style, which means it just doesn't have a spine on either side of the book, and the pages are glued together like an accordion. I decided to do this method because it's sort of the idea I was working with for my piece was I wanted it to be, it's still something that's going on in my life currently, so it's like continuing on, and it's reflecting on the past while also another part of my my writing is reflecting on the present. It's two-sided, so I decided to write two poems. One poem is on one side and is on this side, and then the other poem is on the back side. So I really wanted it to be sort of really clean and really pristine on one side for one poem that's reflecting on the past, and then just like current, the present day poem, I wanted it to be more of the ramifications of what was going on in the present, or in the past, sorry. So I decided to write my first poem about what happened to me about 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and in being diagnosed, when they told her diagnosis, they told her that she would never be cured of it, and that she would have it for the rest of her life. So for the past 10 years, my mom has been battling breast cancer, and it's just been something my family's been going through for the past 10 years, and it's just been increasingly, she's been increasingly getting worse. So it's just kind of like, my first poem is kind of the day she told me that she was, that she was suffering from breast cancer, and that she would eventually die from this. And the second poem is present day and sort of reflecting on that diagnosis. So I kind of wanted to just kind of first show you the cover and kind of just kind of what the inside looks like before I might do like a little sample of what I had written. But essentially this is, so it's kind of hard, but so the inside is, I wanted it to be like really minimal imagery, so I did, I embroidered on each page the poem, the section of the poem I embroidered in yellow, and I had it, so I sort of stitched it onto the book, and then each page has a line that just keeps, I keep adding to it. So the first page, there's just one stitch, and then the second page, there's 2 stitches, then 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And so that's the end. Each of them is embroidered on, like each of the sections of the poem are embroidered onto each page. So all of these lines are thread that are going through the whole book. And then when you close it, you reopen it and you start in the back. And so I wanted just to be able to see kind of those stitchings and sort of how it sort of is present in the reflection, that you can still see these. So yeah, I kind of wanted to show how chaotic it kind of is, just kind of what it feels like to be living, how this kind of affected how it's affecting my family. So I kind of just wanted it to be a little bit more chaotic, and I kind of liked that it kind of the back of the thread sort of made it more loose, and so I was able to sort of have a little bit more fun with that. So it's just very minimal, but I wanted it to be really the imagery to be kind of more of a focal point, along with the words to sort of dance on the page a little bit together, so working together. So I mean, throughout this process, kind of just, it was really hard for me to kind of nail down what I wanted to write about. The prompt was so open-ended that I was like, I don't know what I wanted to write about. It took me like several days to kind of figure out what I wanted to write about. And I had like 3 or 4 different ideas of what I wanted to write about. And I was like, maybe if I go through like old pictures and like try to see like what was going on during that time, I can come up with a story, or like I can research like other people's like personal narratives, and maybe that'll give me some ideas. So I ended up like looking back on old pictures and like just like listening to other people's stories and trying to see if I could find something that like, maybe spoke into my life that I was like, oh, me too. Like I have that same thing happen to me, until I ended up just coming back to this idea that I had from the beginning, which was sort of talking about my mom. And so, yeah, I think I really got to like think about more about imagery and like how I use my senses when I write, and it's really hard for me to show rather than to tell how I'm feeling. And so I think poetry really allows me to be more artistic and be more free with what I'm saying, and use more like figurative language and personification, and use all those different elements of writing. And so I really appreciated doing that. And I really thought that poetry would let me sort of exercise that muscle, which is really atrophied. So, so I'm going to read just maybe the first part of my first poem, and then maybe the first part of my second poem. Okay, so the first part of my first poem. Spring 2009 is a call. Winter disappears, a normal change in seasons. In spring, she listens. I sit, seat hard against me. Math, math, math. I don't understand. There's a formula. Quiet. I almost feel alone. I forget she's home, her steps coming out like a bear from her winter cave. Walking up, drowsy, holding in her stretch, Mom. Her cheeks are fields of baby strawberries, ripe with moisture and anxiety, and her eyes like cumulonimbus clouds, firm, full, spilling, swelling, giving life or taking it. So this is the first part of that poem. And then I wanted to kind of share the first part of my second poem. Now, what ifs echo across the smooth, cold stone? So this is kind of what it looks like. Rain still coating the walls, parts of her storm lingering. Perpetual puddles pooling over the storm. Is it still here? So I kind of have to like peek past the thread in order for me to read it. So it makes it a little bit tricky to read, but I kind of like being able to kind of peek around. I feel her cold winds. The storm is quarantine. We carry that same possible storm inside of us. What ifs? When and how will she come? I'm 23, still young. She's 55. Many my age have never seen this storm. Some have. Her hands like cotton soft, her legs like 2 bridges worn from heavy town traffic, her mind like a favorite t-shirt. So these are just two excerpts from the poems that I wrote. But yeah, I think this exercise was really great to just sort of engage in the writing process and just understand like how much time it actually does take, and how much I wrote this all in a Google Doc, and like I wrote like different formats and like experimented with different fonts, and I like edited stuff out. So it really got me to really be really involved with the writing process. And it made me, it was so fun to make this. And like I studied art in my undergrad, so it was just really fun just to be able to like really take the time and put intention into my published piece, which I thought was so fun. So yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about what it takes to get to a published piece. So, and how much time it really does take. So, thank you.